I'm Christine Zimmermann-Loessl, the chairwoman of the Association for Vertical Farming, and I'm really happy that we have that pre-program before the annual general meeting. And we thought that startups really flocked into the AVF from the very beginning, and that we wanted to give you a special platform this time, especially as we are fostering collaboration and cooperation. And that is one possibility to show how startups can cooperate and how they can profit and benefit from each other. This is why we start with the startups. And I'm really happy to see so many familiar names on the audience list, and a very warm welcome to all whom I know in person and all the others as well. Hopefully I get to know you in person soon. Okay, we will start with Ralf Becker. Ralf Becker is with the AVF since the very beginning, Urban Greens, when he started that, I think 2017, we met first time in Brussels. And since then, he kept going and kept building up. And now he is where he is. And we will see that in his fantastic video. Ralf Becker Urban Greens is in the Philippines, in Manila, so far away from here. And video conferences enable us to shorten the distance. I give the floor to Ralf, and we will start with his recently just finished video to introduce him, and then we will ask questions. Please write in the chat so we can all see, and I can also work on your specific questions.
Yes. My name is Ramin Ebrahimnejad. I am the vice chair of the association, and I will be looking at the Q&A session. So please submit your questions. And now I'm going to share the video, and then we can start the webinar.
We live in a city. It is our home. It holds the stories of our past, where the pieces of our everyday life somehow fit together. We have been shaped by challenges beyond our control. Storms, flood, drought, in places both near and far. Always hoping for the best, when most of the time we experience the worst. The future we're hoping and waiting for is about to happen. But what kind of future will it be? The steps we take today will plant the seed for the future we want to live in. We are Urban Greens. Our aim is to produce cleaner, fresher, and smarter grown greens made possible through hydroponic indoor farming. We will plant, grow, and harvest right here in the city with no soil, 90% less water, and 10 times more crops per square meter than traditional farming, making healthy greens easily accessible for those in the city, creating a supply chain that is safe from the calamities that endanger it many times every single year. We've already started with our 700 square meter facility, with more on the horizon. For 2021, we aim to expand production to reach more commercial and private customers in and around the city. We will also set up production sites far beyond Manila to reach even more customers. All this at the fraction of the electricity usage compared to other vertical farms. This year, there'll still be floods. Climate change is making typhoons stronger and stronger. The pandemic is still here, which is why our technology, what we do, is even more vital than ever. We all want to create a greener, more sustainable future for everyone. And here is where our next story unfolds. And we welcome you to join us in our limitless growth. My name is Ralf Becker, and I'm the CEO and founder of Urban Greens. One more. I didn't look at the camera.
Hey, thank you very much. Thanks, Ramin, for showing the video to a wider audience. And actually, the video got finalized yesterday, so you are among the first to actually see it. And I couldn't have picked a better audience to display it to. As I said in the video, my name is Ralph Becker, and I'm the CEO and founder of Urban Greens. And I'm based here in Manila, in the Philippines. And you know, Manila is hit by several storms and typhoons throughout the year, outside of COVID, of course, which has had a tremendous impact on our supply chain. And it's been a very interesting ride the last year, because with the disruption in supply chain, we did see that we had quite an increase in demand over the last couple of months throughout the summer months last year. But then we have the typhoon season coming in September, October, November, and we had very devastating typhoons last year. And frankly, they get stronger each year. And we already had quite a high demand, and that demand was even eclipsed by the demand that we had after the typhoons, when a lot of the farms got destroyed out there. So we looked at increasing our production and going down the route, as so many of you have done, with indoor, larger scale or mid-scale indoor urban farming. And throughout, what the pandemic also did was it made such big spaces very accessible to us, because the rent prices have gone down significantly, with a lot of tenants and businesses going, frankly, going bankrupt, sadly. But the positive story is that, you know, we're here and we're creating a positive spin on it, transforming unused, underutilized big warehouses into these indoor urban farms, as you are familiar with in your countries and the businesses that you are doing, all of you. And this is where we are. And you know, we're starting with a 700 square meter farm, and we're actually looking at a second, third, and fourth unit or warehouse in Manila and outside Manila. You know, the Philippines has 7,000 islands around, and all of these islands are very susceptible to climate change, and a lot of them get nearly 100% imported from abroad. So we're very excited where we are. We're excited to be part of the AVF, and excited to, you know, to reach out to all of you and just to share what it is that we are doing. And I'm looking forward to collaborate with people out there. Let me put my contacts here into the messaging chat, so you can all reach out to me on LinkedIn, and I'll put the video links as well here in the chat as well later. So let me know if you have any questions. Thank you.
Thank you, Ralph. I mean, that's an exciting journey. I was happy to follow from the very beginning. And where you are now is, I think a lot of people will ask, how did you start that, and why did you start that? Could you elaborate a little bit on that?
So I'm actually originally from Luxembourg. I'm half Filipino, half Journey, so that puts me into a very international scenario as well. And I've lived and worked in a lot of different countries, amongst others, in different parts of Europe, in a lot of different countries in Asia, among which Singapore, Japan. But my last stint before moving here to Manila was actually in Silicon Valley. And I was working for a big tech company for the last couple of years. So I was very familiar with corporate tech. And what I had seen already in Japan and in Tokyo was the beginning, the advent of urban farming, of hydroponic indoor farming. And obviously the topic of Fukushima came up, and you know, a lot of the crops were compromised, and they then managed to grow quite a lot of crops indoors through hydroponics. And then living and working in California, you had a lot of startups around which were doing hydroponic indoor farming, vertical farmings, and the startup scene is quite buzzing there. So I was exposed to a lot of these interesting dynamics, but then I decided to quit my job and then to move to the Philippines to do something different. And what I noticed here is actually very surprisingly, and Christine knows this. She was here. She has been here as well. The vegetables and herbs here are actually more expensive than probably in all of your countries, and surprisingly, they're of lesser quality. So that was very shocking to me to see, because California has great fruits and vegetables and herbs. So does Europe, and so do other countries such as Japan. But here, they're actually more expensive than parts of Europe and more expensive than in the US. And this prompted me to think about, why this is the case, and what causes this. And I found that the Philippines is very late in development in anything that is ag tech, and we still till our soils here with water buffaloes, and there's not much mechanization, not a lot of technology. And and we have a lot of storms and typhoons here. We don't have winters, but these storms are very devastating. And then in between we have droughts, which are very severe as well. So I saw that people were addressing this all around the world, with the future of farming. And it was a little bit selfish at the beginning. I wanted to just grow it for my own use and supply in my own home. And when I posted it on social media, people were like, "Wow, this is great. Can you build this for me as well?" And I think that was the start of Urban Greens, when more and more people asked me to supply them with herbs that I grew in my own apartment. And this is 4 years back, and now I am where I am, and I'm very grateful for it.
Yeah, that is really always important to hear these personal stories behind that big next steps you're doing now. It starts small, but then you see the scope. And we really appreciate in the AVF that regional special knowledge. Ralph is not only a member, he's also representing us in Southeast Asia. So he's the contact person. He gives us insight, what is happening. And to be honest, I wasn't thinking that the Philippines could be an ideal location to start indoor farming. But I've learned it from Ralph. That is really different. And this is what we have to do to really look into the details. Ralph, what were the biggest hurdles? What were the biggest challenges in these past 4 years?
For me, in good or evil, nobody else does it here, or the only people who do it here are, it's a small scale backyard farming. So it meant that I had to develop everything from scratch.
Mm-hmm.
It's good that I have a product design and a little bit of a science background, so I love tinkering on this, and I was very motivated. But it also means that I don't have access to many of these, just if you think about it, nutrients or gutters or rock wool or pH down, right? So all of this had to be sourced or then made in one way or another, which also meant that a lot of the earlier systems are quite DIY, right? So that was a tremendous learning curve. But the advantage in that is, me not having to purchase technology from abroad is that I own all of my IP. I am not relying on anything that comes from abroad. Let's say I don't necessarily require to purchase anything from outside. And that also means that I can scale, and that I can grow, and I can fix anything if in case it's broken. So it's a lot of learning curve and a lot of school money that you pay. but all of this is at the end investment into, the IP of, your company, and you learn a lot about the processes.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, thanks. And what would you need now to really be successful in this new step? What are the wishes, the needs you have?
So as we are scaling right now, we're looking to for investment partners who are familiar with, urban farming and indoor farming specifically, who share our vision that we can grow within the Philippines and in the region as well, because that is really our ambition. We have something with our technology because we've developed it in-house, where we are very low on operational cost. Normally, the biggest hurdles of entry are electricity cost, right? And particularly in a warm country such as ours, and you would have thought that we spend a lot of money on electricity for aircon or for cooling, but that's not the case. We figured out another way how to do it, which makes us very, very efficient. So now we're looking for partners who can help us grow, either technology partners as well. I mean, we have built a lot of our technology in-house, IoT, but as we are trying to scale, we are looking for partners who can maybe come in and where they say like, okay, this is something where we can collaborate in, or maybe partners in different countries who would like to see how we can scale into their region. At the moment, we are looking actually at going into Indonesia. So Mark was partially right. Because it means that since growing within the Philippines and scaling in the Philippines means that you have to bring your technology from the mainland to an island, it's actually no different to bring it to a different country altogether, So we are ready to scale, and we're looking for partners to help us join us in our vision.
May I ask something?
Sure.
Sure.
Yes.
So thank you very much for your presentation or your video. And I was always tempted to think about vertical farming on islands because, as you said, 100% is imported. And in your case, I think Singapore will be quite interesting, wouldn't it? Or is it just a hype?
Singapore actually is very interesting, but they do have quite a number of their own homegrown companies and startups there, and well-established companies already. But indeed, I've been told that also many times that I should think about vertical farming, and again, also vertical farming here, Francis, about in Africa. I think a lot of our strategic consultants there, they're thinking about whether we can move our technology to Africa or to South America even, because we are, I would say, even though we use IoT and different parts of technology, but we are comparatively low tech, but very efficient in everything that we do. So the manpower here in parts of Southeast Asia, as well as in South America and in Africa, manpower is actually quite cheap. But it is the collaboration between high tech and cheap labor that makes us very, very efficient, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think there I would have contact for Colombia, San Andres, the islands.
Okay,
Yep.
Let's do it. Let's meet there.
Yeah.
This is what we want to see, that you talk to each other and then all of a sudden ideas and connections pop up. Dominik, do you have any question to Ralph?
Yes. What kinds of plants are you planning to grow in your vertical farms? Do you focus on salads or greens or herbs?
Yeah, that's a very good question. So we are demand driven, but we do favor high-end, high-value crops. So particularly, a lot of crops are imported here. you name it, from Australia, New Zealand, Thailand, Indonesia, Vietnam. So those are the ones that we're targeting, because if we can replicate those here at a much lower price and a lot fresher, then that is the market that we're attacking. Also, in terms of from a narrative, because we don't want to be perceived immediately to be a threat to the local farmers. On the other hand, we are also pursuing what we call, what's known as the blue ocean strategy. So we're trying to grow stuff that nobody else grows here in the region. For instance, the Japanese, they have a herb called shiso, which is like a herb. It looks a little bit like a mint. It's in the mint family, mint basil. And all of that is imported, from Japan or from Korea at a very high price. I think 4 leaves of shiso go for €1 here. 4 leaves, €1. So you can imagine the price. Other things are, let's say, for the Indian market, there's a herb called fenugreek, which is a little bit like a parsley, but very specific. We grow edible flowers here, so we also work together with local chefs, and we basically grow stuff that they would like to have but have never been able to get. So that's our strategy as well. And the latest thing is strawberries. We're trying to grow really nice big strawberries. There you go. I can see some questions here, if you don't mind me answering.
Sure. Yeah, go ahead.
So Francis is asking about what do you think could be a challenge in starting vertical farming in Africa? I don't think there's a challenge, quite frankly. Right now, I'm even consulting guys for Kazakhstan and what's the other one in the region as well. So they're coming up. So it's yeah, it's obviously something new. You have to, but I think technology everywhere where you have people who love technology and who love to tinker around, it is possible, and you can even create solutions in-house. I don't believe that you always have to buy technology from countries like Israel, Japan, or the US, or from Germany. You can actually build a lot of it yourself. A lot of the resources are available online and through the network of the AVF. So I think it just takes a little bit of grit and knowing and what it is that you want and just trying out. And for Jasper, I can't disclose too much at this point. Unfortunately, it is something that we've worked on quite hard to do. But maybe if we meet, or if you drop me a message offline, I can tell you a little bit more. But I do tell you that one of the highest cost is obviously LED lights when you work indoors, and the second one is aircon or anything that has to do with cooling. So we are very efficient in those, and we don't necessarily need a lot of that. Humidity, we have, it's a tropical country. We have high humidity. It's even about, lowering humidity, but there are some certain hacks to go on about it. So just think about not trying to find like the most expensive solution. If you had no money whatsoever and you had to solve it, how would you solve it? And that's basically how we came about. We never had any cash at the beginning. Everything is bootstrapped. So that's how we managed to create a lot of the technology, and we stumbled on something that is very cost efficient at this point. And Oscar, we would love to talk about South Africa.
Excellent. One last question, Ralph. Is the Philippine government supportive and open to AgTech and indoor farming? Are there any programs, any support?
In principle, they are. And you do see the Department of Agriculture being, making steps towards it. So it's very exciting to see that and trying to get involved younger people out there. But it's very new here altogether, right? And there are a lot of new players. And frankly, we are a new player in this arena as well. So I think there can be closer collaboration, and there has to be closer collaboration in all, because at the end of the day, it's not competition we're after, right? Like it's whoever, if the more people do it, the better for the country. I think that the people, it's the people here who benefit from it, who will have access to fresher greens. So, you know, we would be very excited to work closer with the government and the Department of Agriculture here in the Philippines.
Mhm. Okay. Thanks a lot so far. We will come back
Thank you.
in the last round. And a big applause to you. Unfortunately, you don't hear the big audience applauding. Very exciting.
Thank
And
you very much.
let me introduce now Dominik Feiden from Organifarms, a recent member of the AVF family, and I'm really happy that you joined us, and I'm excited to hear more about it because you are really at the very beginning of your startup venture, and you're in the southern part of Germany, and yeah, every other detail, please, Dominik, share with us.
Thank you for having me, and we are really excited to be here. And we at Organifarms, we focus at making vertical farming profitable for other crops than fruits and for like fruits and vegetables. As we heard before, vertical farming has many advantages. Like we need less water, no pesticides, and we can cultivate locally, even on islands. But there's a huge problem that it's not profitable for other people to profitable produce fruits and vegetables to really feed a growing demand of a growing population worldwide. So we focused on that. Our solution for that is to automate automated farms, and with robots automate the complete growing cycle. So our robot is applicable for different crops and scalable, so we can grow with the size of the farm. And our goal is to profitable cultivate various crop types. Our farming robot is a stationary robot. It's 3D computer vision driven, and we optimize the trajectory planning, so we have a high harvesting speed. And also we have a unique harvesting method, so we can harvest everything indoors. Our prototype you can see here. It's luckily interestingly also for strawberries as urban greens, and it will be available next year. Our technical roadmap is to develop those farming stations for strawberries this year, and focus on other crops and vegetables next year, and optimize the whole automatic farm by 2023 for fruits and vegetables. Our USPs are that we can make it profitable for fruits and vegetables to grow them in vertical farms, and automate the complete growing cycle from pollination to plant care over harvesting. And with that, we can have a very high harvesting speed. We haven't quite grown since we founded last April. We are now 8 people with our core competencies in machine learning, but also engineering and business as well. Our last successful milestone was that we could, with our prototype, successfully harvest first strawberries, and we will present our first product in this quarter. And we will focus on the funding this year, and plan on build up the production in this year, and so we can sell our product in the beginning of next year. So I hope we can shape the future of agriculture together. And if you are, and right now we are looking for cooperation partners, so we can test our robot in a real vertical farm. So if you're interested in that, let me know.
Thanks a lot, Dominik. That was great to see. Also, that your prototype robot is already in action. And as you know, that we will try at the AVF lab to have a special section for strawberries, hydroponic strawberry growing, and we can test your robot. I'm really looking forward to that as well.
Yeah, we're looking forward to that too.
Yeah.
That would be great. Yeah.
So same question here to you, Dominik. What drove you into that area? Why did you start with your colleagues this startup?
Yeah, yeah. I was focused on competing the climate change, and so I looked at the influence of different industries and how they influence the how they influence the emissions of CO2, and agriculture is one of the big players in that. So I searched for solutions how we could fix that, and I stumbled on yeah, vertical farming, and I met some different vertical farmers like Lettuce Grown Bristol and iFarm, and I talked about them and was wondering why, if it's really that simple, or is it if it's that good, and we can solve so many problems at once with vertical farming. So why is it not everywhere, and why don't we do it already everywhere? So we focused on that and saw that the main problems are yeah, in Europe and in the United States and in Japan, the high labor costs. So why can't we grow fruits and vegetables there? And it's not only the energy costs that were before, because the LEDs are really getting better in the last few years. So we focused on that and tried to make vertical farming more profitable, and with that also more accessible for everybody.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And in that, thank you. In that beginning phase, you are now. What are the big challenges and hurdles to overcome?
Yeah, for us, mainly the biggest hurdle is because of COVID, we can't work all the time on the robot itself. So we have to take turns. So the engineers have to yeah, come into the facility at different times in shifts. Yeah. So we have to organize that quite good. But we had the opportunity that we already had a remote team. We chose against a headquarter from the beginning, and so we already had the infrastructure in place for our remote team to work on. That's why our software is really advanced right now. But we also have some hurdles with the hardware still. That's the biggest hurdle, and we. And also that we can't visit all vertical farmers who we would like to see, because it's just not possible right now.
Yeah. Whom did you want to visit, and were they open when you asked? Was it basically possible except COVID?
Yes, I think almost everybody we talked to was really happy that we are doing that, because they always see these restrictions on how they can scale their vertical farm, because you always need so many people to harvest the plants, or if you want to grow tomatoes or strawberries inside, you have to pollinate them, and it's really difficult to achieve that with bees or yeah. So they are really excited, and most of them really invited us, but it wasn't for now. It's not possible to see them. Yeah.
Soon it will be.
Yeah, I hope so.
Yeah, and you can travel around the world and visit all the big vertical farms.
Yeah.
So what could and will help you for your next step? What is important?
Currently, we are looking for investors to aid us in the to bring our product into the market. So we have a working prototype, but we need to further develop it so we can produce it in a bigger scale. And also, as I mentioned before, the collaboration. So we have to test our prototype in longer periods of time. So we need more crops to test it with. So that would be also, if you have strawberries or a large number of strawberries, and we could harvest them with our robot, that would be really good.
Yeah. So Ralph, Yes.
Yeah, Dominik, I was thinking, but I mean, we're really actually thinking about setting up a pure strawberry farm here, so to speak. But how do you think we could do this? Getting your system over here and remote support and all of that.
Yeah, that would be a really difficult task in the beginning, I guess. But I think we could figure something out, because we can accept the robot with TeamViewer or something like that, and if something happens, and yeah, I think we could figure something out. So let's keep in touch.
We will test it first here, Ralph, on the big strawberry fields.
Yeah, I think we will test it here, and then we will go to to Indonesia and Malaysia. No.
Yeah, and we're already working on that, Dominik. So yeah, I think that will happen this year, definitely.
Also in Zurich, you're welcome next year.
And in Zurich, yes. Yeah. Excellent. So it's investment and the possibility to meet really in the field or in the farm. These are the two major necessities you have to scale or to go next step. Yeah. Is that correct?
That's definitely our next steps. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. And I haven't asked you that, Ralph, because you were with us from the very beginning, but what helped you to join the AVF, or what drove you for that decision?
I mean, for me, as a newcomer in the field, I needed to surround myself with people who are in the field, right, and who understand the struggles, right? I think everyone who has started an urban company, an urban farming company, a hydroponic company, or anything similar, knows the ups and downs and the struggles that we have to go through. So it's different than the conventional tech startups where you program something and you make a bit of software and then you launch it out. It's a mix between hardware and software, right? It's a tech company, and at the end of the day, we create a produce that is very for people. So it is something very, very specific, and I found that the people in the AVF, the conversations were just so natural, and I was just very happy to be part of it, quite frankly.
Thank you. And Dominik?
Yeah, for us as well. We didn't really know everybody in the field, and we really had to connect with them, and also to newcomers into the vertical farming market, like Karl's Erdbeerhof. You connected us with them, and it was really interesting to see new players who will join the market in the future, and to really know what their needs are, and to have to see how the vertical farming market can develop in the future, and to really have these opportunities to meet all of those great people with really good ideas.
Yeah, that's the platform we want to provide. Exactly. Yeah. Thanks a lot. And this year, when we will organize the big vertical farming conference here in Munich, then you will all be able to meet in person and talk and connect and network. And yeah, I'm really looking forward to this, but that's on a later stage to be announced. Thank you, Dominik. Mark, the floor is yours. YASAI is really in the news, and we really see a lot of things going on in Zurich, and I would really like to get your views and your presentation.
Sure. Thank you very much for having YASAI again.
Absolutely.
I will be sharing my screen.
Yes.
I hope you can see it. There we go. So a bit to YASAI. YASAI means vegetables in Japanese, and this is what we do. Our aim is to help people to grow more with less. We are luckily an ETH spin-off from Zurich. And my background is architecture. So I will talk a bit about my motivation, how I got into this field and how I got into this topic. If we look at Earth, we call it the spaceship of humanity at YASAI. Today, we're about 8 billion people, 56% urbanized. And by 2050, we will be even more people and even more urbanized than ever before. But at the same time, we will have the same resources to feed ourselves. So as an architect, you look at the world, and architects are masters of space. So if we look at how much space our cities require, where most people will live by 2050, they just require about 3% of all ice-free land. Compared to that, agriculture or the food production system that we have today requires about 40% of all ice-free land. So it's quite an unsustainable way of space management, let's say. And this is why I, as an architect, was intrigued by the idea of densifying agriculture with vertical farming, besides all the other good things that come with it. So if we look at vertical farming, as you all know, we have a big problem of a big footprint of the current food industry. And with vertical farming, we can save a lot of space, a lot of fresh water, and also apply 0 pesticides and 0 food miles in the best cases. So at YASAI, we say we grow more with less for the health of people, plants, and planet. The way how I got into this project was I was reading the book when I was living in Mexico City. I was reading the book of Dixon Despommier, and after reading it, I booked the first flight to New York and went to him and told him that I would like to bring this technology to Switzerland, to Europe. And what I was looking at on my master thesis at ETH is the question how to integrate vertical farming within the Swiss landscape. A very different landscape than Manila, for instance. It's a bit colder, you have snow outside, but it's also an island in terms of imports. So Switzerland imports 50% of all fresh vegetables. And what I came out with was this idea of reusing mining landscapes for large-scale vertical farming. And here we could work together with cement industry players like LafargeHolcim. So as an architect, you do renderings, you do designs, and this was a design that we did for LafargeHolcim, where we calculated and created a design for the largest vertical farm of the world within a mining landscape, where we could reuse this mining landscape and actually create a large-scale solution for Switzerland. And instead of growing vertically up, we went vertically down, which also helps to reduce cooling efforts with a natural cool storage by the surrounding Earth. And since we do not need or require any daylight, this is a perfect solution for vertical farming. So the largest vertical farm of the world would have a potential yield of 3,500 tons and would also capture a lot of CO2. So this is what we designed at the very beginning, and we did a feasibility study, and because the number at the very end was black, so it was a positive number, we started the company YASAI and spinned off out of ETH Zurich. And also because it's a trend, global trend all over the world. So what you can see here is numbers presented by the Swiss bank UBS, which did a food revolution report. I really encourage everyone to take a look at it. It's a very good report about the ag and food tech industry 4.0. And as you all know, since 2010, vertical farming has been an increasing industry. So from $2 billion today up to 23 billion by 2030. This is the estimation by the Swiss bank, within a larger growing market of the ag, food, and tech industry. So what YASAI does is vertical farming as a service. So we design, we build, we operate, and we market vertical farms. Usually we do this for customers such as food retailers and wholesalers. And we have also partners such as real estate developers who would like to reuse their spaces, whether they are underground or like mining landscapes or anything similar to malls or office spaces now empty due to COVID. So this is also of high interest for these stakeholders. What we grow, of course, is similar to what Ralph is growing, leaves and herbs in the first step, because it's quite easy to do that. And then in the edible part, we will also look at berries. And in the future, you could use the same technology for cosmetical plants and also medicinal plants. As you perhaps know, Roche and Novartis, two very, very large brands in Switzerland, based in Switzerland, in the pharma industry, are very interested into this too. So let's get back to now. And now we create a pilot farm here in Switzerland, in Zurich right now, which has 700 square meters of grow space. In this farm, we will grow shiso green, as already mentioned, and mainly focus on herbs. So what you can see here is the market volume of Switzerland regarding to herbs. And this little black line is our capacity that we will have with the YASAI pilot farm. And the green line would be then a 10x vertical farm, which is 10 times larger. So the market is quite large here in Switzerland to do that. The pilot vertical farm is an establishment, collaborative establishment between very experienced partners and also, for instance, iFarm, which is also part of the AVF, Logix from the Netherlands, which is our hardware technology partner, and Fenaco, which is our logistics partner. It's the largest wholesaler of Switzerland. And like this, we aim to enable local, exotic, and fresh food to the Swiss citizens. The way we work is usually that we have expertise and experience in ag technology, food production, marketing and market access, and also resource and waste recovery. Topics such as logistics or packaging, we can outsource with local partners. And also the consumption, we leave that to the people themselves. So if we look at the vertical farming technology, what we aim for is to create an industrial vertical farming technology, which is very high tech and also mainly applicable for the Swiss context or countries like Switzerland or Singapore, Japan, and so on. So a bit different from the solution of urban greens. What we have here on the left is a very scalable hardware, highly automated and modular. So this is the solution offered by Logix. Logix is a very experienced horticulture industry player with about 30 to 40 years of experience in automation. On the right side, we work with iFarm. And the good thing is that they have a software which is based on AI and big data. And like this, we can constantly improve the crop diversity. Yeah. The next point, operation. So YASAI grows more with less. What you can see here is the cake of the OPEX of a vertical farm. And as many times, energy is one of the largest parts. We will look at automation and AI. So we are already implementing new technologies and developing new IP in this regard to have less labor costs. But then to have less energy costs, you need to create synergies. So what we do is basically, or what we aim for, is to reuse the heat that we produce with our LEDs to heat up spaces which are on the top, like offices or apartments and so on. So the vertical farm is underground, and on top you have these other uses which can reuse the energy. So the whole energy balance is shrinking actually. Another point is reusing waste space. So this is, for instance, mining landscapes and circular systems. I will talk about that in a second. The next point is a brand. So the hard thing about these products is they look the same. So it's not a new product. The plants still are green most of the time, of course. And you need to kind of create a label around this. You can't label them organic in the Swiss context, at least, because they're not grown in earth. They're grown in hydroponic systems. And we want to create a completely new brand to communicate these new values of zero pesticides and deliver all the information to our customers regarding footprint, carbon footprint, how much land it uses, how much water and energy it is used, and how many food miles are used, right? So this is something we want to establish also and give to our customers, because only educated customers can make good decisions. The last part is circular economy and circular systems. So our vertical farms do not just produce fresh food for the smart city, but we can also reuse waste in different forms to promote plant growth. As already mentioned, we do this with waste space. We do this with wastewater, so we can recycle nutrients out of that. We, of course, reuse carbon. That's pretty obvious. And the bio-waste that we produce ourselves, we collect it and create clean energy out of it. And once again, we reuse the heat by the LEDs used, so we can have less energy costs in the whole. What's the next step? The next step after the pilot farm is, of course, scaling vertical farming. And here I think this is a challenge which all of us are facing, because vertical farming is a very capital intense industry. It's not like a software which you can just copy paste by clicking Command C and Command U, right? But instead, you need a lot of capital to scale up. And what we are doing differently at YASAI is we do not use venture capital to create vertical farms. Instead, we use venture capital to do R&D and business development, but we establish real estate funds and infrastructure funds to finance these large-scale vertical farms, or even through customers. So the next step is 10x, and we are already in discussion with many space owners all over Switzerland. So the map that you can see here is a map from Switzerland with the biggest cities, Zurich, Bern, Lausanne, and so on. And we understand Switzerland as one large metropolitan area of about 8 million people, which is very well connected through public transport and highways and so on. So we want to enable a large-scale industrial solution for the Swiss context where labor costs are very high. This is why we need to have high-tech solutions in this context. And this is how we want to empower basically everyone to grow more with less all over the globe. So such as in cities like Tokyo or in deserts, you can see many solutions happening in the UAE right now. Or we have also some space projects where we are involved in, and of course in the mountains, because right now in the mountains, you need to transport everything up there from far away. So yes, thank you very much for your attention, and I'm very curious to collaborate and to listen to your questions. Thanks.
Thank you, Mark. What an exciting project, really. That is different from what we heard from Ralph and from Organifarms. So that is exactly what we wanted to show. 3 startups, but very different in their scope and in their solutions as well. Really exciting. And also to you, before we will start talking and discussing in between, the 3 of you and the audience, what was driving you personally? I know as an architect, but have there been personal drivers and reasons?
Yes, sure. So 2 main reasons. One reason was that my sister died of anorexia. So that was the first time I started really looking at the food industry. Mm-hmm. Her name was also Yasmina. So YASAI is basically a dedication to her too.
Yeah.
The second one was Mexico City. When I was living in Mexico City, I had the chance to try out new fruits, new products, which I've never tasted before in my life. So I was thinking that I was living a lie back in Switzerland when I was living there with these very tasteful fruits and vegetables. And this was the sensation that I wanted to also enable to people here in Europe and Switzerland, and not just yeah. I guess that's what drives many of us, right? So Kirill from Becker just told me once that he loves wasabi, so that's why he's doing vertical farming in Finland. Yeah.
Yes, thank you for sharing that very personal story. Behind all of these startups and companies, there are personal stories, I'm sure. But what were the biggest hurdles to start that? There was the idea and the drivers inside of you, but then what challenges did you meet?
I mean, it's I guess this is what unites all the startuppers. So they are very, very persistent usually. And at the beginning, there are many people who do not believe in the idea.
Yeah.
At the end, everybody says, yeah, I believed in that. So I think it's similar for everyone. So you just need to be persistent and
keep going.
Fall forward, basically. Yeah. You will fall, and that's not an issue. But
yeah. Was it easy to find like-minded people and then also partners?
Yes, very easy. Like it was basically, I think you attract a lot of your energy. So once you do that, you will see that you attract the same people to you with like-minded, likes-minded. And in this case, I couldn't say that. What was more hard is actually to find out what is actually the right solution for the market right now. Because we started developing our own technology from scratch, and then we went to Green Tech in Amsterdam. And we saw like, oh shit, this is not a good idea.
Yeah.
There's already so much out there, right?
Yeah. No need to invent the wheel again.
Yes.
Yes. And what would help you now? What would you need? What are the wishes, the 3 big wishes to the ferry?
Yes, we are looking for a financing partner for the large-scale vertical farm, 10x, which could actually support us on a longer road. And then we need some time to learn. Yes, and I think what you do at the Vertical Farming Association is of great value, because the way we look at vertical farming is basically the way we look at building a house. You don't need to invent every piece of it. You don't need to invent a window.
You need to assemble.
Exactly. Yeah. And then like this, you can foster the movement and bring it to the next level.
Yeah. 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 Thanks a lot for sharing that to all the three of you. I think that really helps also other startups, but also for anybody who is interested in the field, how and what challenges you meet, but also what is driving you. And I would be interested to invite the audience for more questions, but also what we could do as AVF better and more to support you. What would be your suggestions or ideas?
So if I can start, I
Sure.
think what would be great is a platform, basically, where I think you are already establishing this. And the second one is a label.
Yes,
so,
we already established that as well. I mean, we are working on that.
And I think this will be of great value because right now, what we see in the Swiss market basically is organic is a very strong label. But the qualities of vertical farming products are even better, let's face it, for certain products at least. And yeah, this would be of a great contribution to the whole industry.
Okay, that will be announced tonight in the annual general meeting for the members, that we are working on that certification. And you're all invited to participate in that scoping working groups. What are your ideas, Ralph and Dominik? What could we do to help you better, to support you?
Hi, this is Ralph. I think
Hi, Ralph.
so. It's I think Mark said it as well. You know, like something recognizable as us being part here of the Association of Vertical Farming. You know, it's great for us because of the network, but it would also be great if that there was some sort of you know, recognition, and if there's like, oh, these guys are legit because they are from the Association for Vertical Farming. They know what they're talking about. They know what they're doing. Some sort of you know, as you say, as Mark says, a label, and as I understand, that is something that you're looking into and that you will be announcing. Even, yeah, I think I need to be also more active in terms of like on the platform and see what the opportunities are for startups or for companies such as myself, you know, in that sort of sense. So for instance, when you ask what is it that we're looking for, and then when like I hear from all of our, like from Dominik as well, like you're looking for investors, we're looking for funding partners as well. Is there something like, okay, there is this guy that we can link you up with very specifically. Here is the database of the different resources and the people. Maybe something like that, very, very straightforward, you know, and where we can then take the conversations and offline. I think the network and the platform, that really helps.
Okay. Yeah.
But for sure,
thanks.
I have to say thank you, particularly that, you know, you've provided me a platform to show and talk about urban green. So for that has helped me. That helps me quite a lot as well. So thank you for this.
Yeah, very welcome.
I'm not sure what to add.
Visibility, I think that is what we can provide to get not only a larger network, but to be visible, to be seen. And then the credibility, I think that is what you're asking for. Maybe to really develop criteria and you have a stamp then of credibility and trustworthiness in what you're doing.
And I have one more idea.
Sure.
So there are different companies in different countries, and all of them have market data, and it's quite
that's what we need.
market data, right?
Yeah.
It's kind of a secret.
Yes, we need much more data, reliable, transparent data. Yeah, that is what we need.
I was assuming exactly the case with the islands, that this would be a great opportunity. And now Ralph is actually sharing this insights, and that's of high value to, I think, the whole community. People on other islands, for instance.
Yeah, sure. Dominik, thank you, Mark.
Yeah, I'm not sure what to add to all these great ideas. For me as well, the financing and funding round would be also really helpful if there would be something to be established. But I really think you already have a really great networks which covers for us at least this part yet already. So I'm really happy to see it evolve and to see these ideas come true.
Yeah. So thank you. A question from my side. Would you wish more cooperation or support from the already established big players? Do you have connections to them? Is there communication between? I don't want to name anybody, but
I mean, I can talk a little bit about this. For instance, with Japan, the most experienced company, we had the opportunity to talk to them, and I think the insights they gathered are of even greater value because they are in the market for decades, right?
Yeah.
And this could be very interesting if they would like to become part of this association.
Yeah.
And about the American companies, I'm not sure whether they share the same collaborative mindset. I don't know, but let's see. It would be interesting to have also one of them inside.
What is your view on that, Ralph and Dominik?
I think it's really interesting to talk to those more established vertical farmers because they have a really good view of the trends and in the market of vertical farming and where we can see the market in the next 5 years. What crops are realistic in the next years and which aren't really realistic, and how we can and what is really the demand for that, and how we could sell those products at a good price. So also, as Mark mentioned earlier, the data for where we could build such farms it's a really important matter because, and also the crop varieties who can establish those prices in those different areas. That's really the key point on how to go in these areas.
I see.
Yeah, I agree. I think larger companies, they, I think a lot of them, they operate in their fields and they have their main markets to take care of course. As much as everyone is thinking about expansion, what a lot of companies are doing is securing their own markets first. So for us here in the Philippines, we have not been maybe on the radar of a lot of these companies because we are probably not a first tier nor second tier market for them, which is okay. But I think we all benefit from each other, and we're here to stay and we're here to grow, and we're going to be the main player of the Philippines in the next coming years. So I think it's just a matter of time that we all reach out and work together. And again, it's maybe the lack of platforms. We don't have these big fairs anymore where we can meet and where everyone has a stand and say like hi and all of that. It's a virtual world.
Yeah.
Will the AVF have a stand in Green Tech 2021?
No.
Happening physically.
Yeah. No, as we will have the big international vertical farming conference here in Munich, we won't go somewhere else because we will have exhibition space and the conference here. It will be partnered with the Bavarian Ministry of Economics and Agriculture, and that will be the platform we will be, yeah, participating and launching. Ramin, you said that there are more questions in the queue. Do you want to read them? And
first, thank you all for great representation of the industry, and also Ralph for answering the questions and typing them. But there's one question addressed to Mark, and it is about labor costs in Switzerland. Till says, how do you manage to keep the labor cost requirements down in your pilot plant, assuming it is not yet fully automated?
Exactly, very good question. So we automate to a high degree, which means internal logistics is not necessary anymore with the system of logics. So what you basically have is an elevator system, which is operational in every dimension. So people do not have to go to the plants and get them, the plants come to them. Yeah. So you can reduce that, basically. And we partner up with a lot of farmers also, and they teach us how to keep these labor costs down, basically. And also outsource everything that doesn't make sense to do in-house, like packaging or logistics. That's why we work in collaborations with the big companies also, logistic companies.
Thank you for that. And also there's another question, I guess Ralph can answer this. To all who are already producing, I lost the question. I guess Ralph answered it already. There's another one from Mark who says, what are the main issues for profitability? Is it still energy costs? I guess we can start with Mark.
No, I think the main issue that many of us do is they go into the vertical farming industry and think, okay, I can grow whatever I want. That's not the case. Carefully analyze your market and look at the market and all the costs that are in between, the whole contribution margin, basically. And then you will find which products are profitable or not in your context. And I'm pretty sure that each context will be quite different from one another. So yeah, for instance, with our technology solution wouldn't make any sense in Manila, for instance, right? So this is what we also would apply for. So each context has its own solutions,
yeah,
its own culture, right?
I think that's a very important lesson to learn. Yes, indoor vertical farming is a global answer to global challenges, but still you need to localize the solution. There is a local solution to each.
So to that, what I answered as well in the chat was, I think container farming, and not that there's a container farming company here, and there's obviously a lot of container farming companies around the world. Container farming was developed on the east coast of the US, where the environment and the climate is completely different than what we have here, right? What makes sense for an environment there and what looks great doesn't necessarily make sense here. You put a steel box and a steel container into the Philippine baking sun, and it will just heat up like an oven, right? So that's not a good environment to grow plants. And before you can even, first of all, step foot inside, let alone grow any plant, you have to cool that thing down. You have to spend money on insulation. You have to, it's not very efficient. So before you can even set up anything in there, you have already very high electricity costs to cool it down. Now that electricity cost, outside of all the labor, outside of all of the OPEX that you spend on water, on the plants, on the inputs, on the seeds and everything, on your labor, you know, on the LED lights, you have to make up for all of that with the profit margin of the crops that you're growing. So the more you can reduce your input, right, you have to find solutions that work for your country. This took us quite a while to find out what works best. But you, as Mark says, you cannot just like take something from one country and because it works there, take it to another country, right? Electricity and costs in different countries are completely different. For instance, Kazakhstan, electricity is really nearly free. So they don't care about any of that. You know, you can put heaters and lights, whatever you want, right? And it's fine. But it has to be like, what is your skill degree of labor? Labor in the Western countries, in Switzerland and Singapore, is a lot higher than in the Philippines. So even though we're in the same region, you know, what works different here doesn't necessarily work for Singapore because of the very high labor cost as here, right? So you have to find a way that works for your environment and for your input, your electricity cost, your labor skill, your electricity or your engineering capabilities and engineering expertise. Yeah, all of that. You cannot just, my word of advice is, don't look at something and say like, this works in, I've heard this so many times, in Israel, I will buy it. This works in Japan, let's do it here. You have to look at your input. And then again, you have to look at your market. What does your market want and need? And then that's where you start developing for it.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Ralph, do you grow underground in Manila?
No. No.
I'm curious.
It's a good idea. I think we had an underground, we had a basement, but the humidity just shot up because we didn't have any heat extraction. But you know, could be something. But high humidity here, because the humidity is 60-70% on a normal day, you know, and during typhoon season it's anywhere north of 80%. So what that has as a consequence is mold and other fungus, and you have to fight that as well. So you have to have an environment that is you know, very obviously less humid.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah, very interesting. Yeah, please ask each other.
You said, Ralph, you're looking for venture capital. How much are you looking for? Or what kind of Series A, B, C, C funding?
We're still in seed stage, seed funding round. We're currently in the talks or exploring venture capital or angel funding from the US. Locally as well, we are looking into it, but it should be anywhere around $1 million, 2 million, maybe $3 million US at this stage, seed stage round, for us to have enough to develop our 1, 2, 3 farms, and then use all of that expertise, and then just pour fire on it with a Series A at a higher valuation.
Okay, cool. Yeah. Because if for another context, we sometimes receive interests and then we say, oh, we're full, but then we could redirect it to you, perhaps. I don't know.
Yeah, I think that could be also a very interesting model for AVF members, that you support each other. I've had a good contact here and there, and that you refer it to your friends. And I think that is a benefit which could really help, because it's always me. You come and ask, and I'm the point of contact. I'm more than happy to do that, but it's always better, as we know, to have a network with more knots, like the internet is. You have to have a lot of contact points, and then it's accelerating much quicker. Ralph?
Sorry, is there a wall or a group or, you know, I don't
Yes,
know, a Facebook group or something where we could throw and, you know?
We will announce today the establishment of the vertical farming community. It will be like Facebook, but with more features and more secure, but also more open. And that will be open to the membership as well as to the outside world. So we want to really create a Facebook for vertical farming community. And you will all, as members, you will get you will get a code to invite people for the testing phase up to when we are 500, and then it open up to the outside world. So yes, that's coming. It will be launched already next week. We only wait for the annual general meeting to get your consent and your go, and then we do it. Because we also saw it's really needed. Much easier to communicate and to post and to have a company page and even have webinars there. All of that will be available then. Are you excited?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah,
absolutely.
Good. Yeah. So what else is in the queue, Ramin? Anything?
There are a lot of questions, but I think if the panelists give their consent, we can send them their mail addresses and they can reach them directly. I would like to close the session with this question about the public entities and the governments, both on local, national, and, for example, continental levels. What kind of supports did you get already, and what is the need on both regulation or public funding?
Okay. So public funding, for the case of Switzerland, we are lucky that the institutions which do research and the universities are very into it. Mm-hmm. But there is another problem, which is the zoning code problem. So we are not allowed to build on agricultural land, mm-hmm. but then allowed in industrial land. But again, we are labeled as agriculture, so we have to. It's very unclear right now what kind of thing we are. But yeah, this is a discussion that should be led somehow. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, for us, it's we talked with many advisors on how we could funding public funding, I guess, to improve our product and and they always were really keen to help us, and we haven't received much yet, but we had funding for patent approval and stuff like
that. The question was about government or how involvement or support. I think from our side there was we've never reached, or we have reached out to the different governments. I think like how it's like in every country, it's very siloed. You would talk to one minister or who doesn't talk to another one, and you always get referred to someone else. And then they change, and then it's too late, and then you miss the application deadline, and so forth. So rather than jumping through these hoops, we actually, you know, we proceeded in pursuing our own, you know, development as is, and not relying on external and too much on external funding, because the only thing that you can ensure when you are a startup and a company is the controllables that you manage, right? Like your team, your company, etc. So anything on top of that is a bonus. I think the conversation now, Joel is going to help us also give the Department of Agriculture here a nudge and introduce us formally, maybe as you know, Urban Greens, and what it is that we do here in the Philippines, or we have been doing. And of course now we have more of a bigger solution and something more to show. So we're excited, you know, to do this, but it's not, you know, a non-intervention or participation of the government is still not going to keep us from doing what it is that we're doing.
Yeah, I really take away from all three of you that financing is a very crucial step and question and yeah, a necessity. So maybe we should help also to tell the story of climate change mitigation with vertical farming in a more concrete way, so that we can provide data, how much CO2 can be saved, and how much the future can be built on that new technology or that new way of agriculture. And then the big money, because there is big money out there to restructure economy, and vertical farming is not yet part of that. So maybe that is something we should focus on also in our activities.
Yes, I completely agree. So the big money, what's missing for instance, for funds to invest into this technology as an infrastructure is the numbers of operators. So it's the same as with hotels, for instance. If you go to a real estate developer and you say, okay, I'm Sheraton or I'm, what is it, Hilton, they say, okay, cool. Give me just this kind of yield back and it's fine. And they have some security because if Hilton goes bankrupt, they still have a lot of other players to go inside. This is not the case in vertical farming. It's still a bit too early for the big money, I guess. And that's what that's what they tell us, right? So.
Yes. Yeah. Yes. How true. Thank you very, very much. That was an exciting and quick passing time. It's 1.5 hours, and it was really valuable and helpful to talk with you and to listen to your experience and your endeavors. And I wish you all the success, and I'm sure you will have it. You're ambitious and you're persistent, and that's so important. And we will be at your side as the AVF, and we are looking forward to our future together. Thank you. Thank you, Ramin, for hosting this session.
Thank you to all the attendees as well, and also the panelists. See you soon.
Thank you.